So good afternoon. I hope you can all hear me quite well.
Loud and clear, Andy.
Thanks.
Yes, we do.
So I would like to welcome you back for this afternoon session. Some of you will probably just be attending for the first time today. What we did talk about this morning was that if possible at all, if you could amend your screen name to your name and your organization, so everybody kind of knows who is coming from where and maybe can contact them if they would like, that would be great. This afternoon, we're going to go a bit further on teacher education and digital and media literacy. What we talked about this morning already was the necessity of it and how, although we can make a lot of policies or say how necessary digital and media literacy and education might be, and how we can make all kinds of tools and instruments, if we can't get teachers online on board to help us actually deliver the education, we're not going to make it anywhere. This morning, we already talked about about teacher education in a pre-service education. And what we learned is that often when it's about media literacy, digital literacy, we're talking about elective subjects, about things that haven't been really necessarily structurally introduced into teacher education yet, and also about how the workload in pre-service teacher education is quite large, and how it is difficult to get new things and other things in there. So that stresses the importance, I think, to look at how we can get teachers who are already in service or who will be coming out of pre-service education, but without a lot of digital and media education in it, how we can get them on board. And we have a fine panel, a really interesting panel here, who will be talking about that. We're starting with Dr. Ricardo Castellini de Silva from Ireland. He will be followed by Stephanie de Clercq from the Flemish Ministry of Education and Training. Vitor Tomé will be talking about his experience from Portugal, and then Professor Divina from MAKES will conclude with all her experience. So let's start with Dr. Ricardo Castellini da Silva, very long name. Hi, Ricardo, welcome.
Hey, Andy. Don't forget
yes,
the Silva, please.
So you are a postdoctoral researcher in Dublin City University. You also teach at Trinity College Dublin. I know you as the media literacy lead for Edmo Ireland. So I think for me, that's the most important function you may have there. And you've been doing great research and been teaching a lot of people in workshops, in lessons, in all kinds of seminars about media literacy. And as I learned recently, you are also looking at libraries there. But today I will give you the word to talk about in-service teacher training.
Great, Andy. Thank you very much. I think the focus of my camera is not really good, so apologies if I'm trying to, well, anyway, I think you can see me and you can hear me. I'm just going to share my screen. Okay. Great, so very happy to be here talking about such an important topic, which is teacher training, especially in-service training. I just want to give you a very brief context about Ireland. So media literacy in Ireland is something relatively recent. We had our first media literacy policy published in 2016. And soon afterwards, we had a network of people and organizations put together to promote media literacy across the country, which is called Media Literacy Ireland. So since then, we've had some national campaigns, media literacy events, and also the development of some learning resources, not only for educators, but for the public in general. It's important to say that media literacy is not present in the Irish curriculum, unfortunately, as a subject or discipline. What we have are some elements of media literacy spread across the curriculum, such as, for example, topics around online safety, creative art in digital media, and film studies and journalism within the English subject. But a subject about media literacy, unfortunately, we don't have in Ireland. In relation to initial teacher education first, here in Ireland, we like if you want to become a second, have to do a professional masters of education program. And these programs always have a module related to digital technologies, such as, for example, ICT in education or technology enhanced learning, which have some elements of digital media. So in Dublin City University, for example, there is a module called Fostering Creativity and Innovation that has some elements of digital media to promote creativity in the classroom. So it doesn't touch on the critical side of that, but it has some elements of creativity. In Trinity, for the first time this year, actually last week, we introduced a class on digital media literacy focusing on the critical side or the critical aspects of media literacy, which is a very good first step, but it is still very little in terms of initial training. So basically, one of the problems here with in-service teacher training is that besides not having media literacy in the curriculum, teachers do not receive pre-service teacher training on media literacy. So of course, it is much more difficult to address this topic once they start teaching in schools, because they were not trained for that, and also because it's not part of the national curriculum. Now, in terms of opportunities for media literacy in Ireland, we have, especially in secondary education, we have very good opportunities to promote media literacy in the country. So, for example, we have the transition year program, which is the fourth year of secondary education. And during this year, schools have a lot of flexibility to create many different learning activities for students outside of the national curriculum. So it's a good opportunity to get teachers to teach media literacy topics to students. Also, the Department of Education developed short courses for the junior cycle. The junior cycle comprises the first 3 years of secondary education. And one of these courses is on digital media literacy. So these courses are not compulsory, but schools can decide to adopt them, and then they will be able to access a syllabus and also some teaching resources. And there is also ICT in education, which is generally well established in schools across many different subjects, and they can incorporate media literacy elements as well. Now, in terms of continuing professional development, there is a department in Ireland called Professional Development Service for Teachers, or PSDT, which has a department specifically for technology called PDST, Technology in Education, and they offer training for teachers. So the topics are related mainly to ICT in education, but we can find some topics that touch on concepts also related to media literacy, such as, for example, digital storytelling, internet safety, digital citizenship. They also create podcasts, this kind of thing. So again, the main focus is still on technology, but there are some digital media literacy elements in it, which, I guess it's a first step. Now, in relation specifically to the digital media short course that I mentioned, the Department of Education provides a syllabus. It provides also learning intentions, areas of studies, different strands, and so forth, and also some teaching resources for teachers. SchoolNet, this website here on the right-hand side of your page, is probably the main website where teachers can find teaching resources to teach this specific short course. So and there are indeed plenty of resources there. So you can use filters like I'm showing here. So you can go to the website and then you select the digital media literacy short course, and you find below, you can scroll down the page, and then you're gonna find many resources on that. There is another example of resources for teachers. This is Fuse. Fuse is an education program developed by the Anti-Bullying Center in DCU. And this program provides both primary and secondary teachers with lesson plans for workshops. Usually, of course, workshops related to topics about bullying, harassment, this kind of things. But they also, I mean, here you have a few examples of some workshops they have. And as you can see, they have a few workshops that are related to media literacy topic, especially the three last ones: on image sharing, a word made of stories, and do you trust the information you find online? So there are some elements and there are some workshops available for teachers as well. But the thing is, I mean, so there are many resources available to teachers, but what about training, which is the main topic of our session today? After all, we all know that resources are very important, but I have talked to many teachers across the country, and many of them just say to me, you know, Ricardo, we have resources. I mean, you can go online, you can find these resources to teach media literacy, but I don't have the knowledge. I mean, I was not trained to do that. So I don't know actually how to use these resources. I can adapt these resources to my own subject, but I've never been trained in this specific topic. So this is still a challenge that we have here in Ireland. Things have improved over the past years, but we still have a lot of work to do. So for example, we have WebWise. WebWise is a very important organization here in the country. They have done an extraordinary work in Ireland, especially in relation to development of media literacy resources. And they also provide training for teachers. However, this is usually done through workshops, in conferences and teachers' events. So they currently don't have capacity to provide training in schools in a way that could reach many teachers at the same time and cater for local needs. Another example is this course here that is offered by Trinity College Dublin. So Trinity College offered this to only secondary teachers, a postgraduate certificate in 21st century teaching and learning. So this course is mainly focused on topics related to computer science, but they do have a module on digital media literacy as well. You can see here in the description that they say digital media is all around us in our daily life. This workshop aims to develop teachers' confidence to design lessons that use digital technology, communication tools, and internet creatively and innovatively. This module provides the participants with an immersive experience where they will see and experience the Bridge 21 model in action. So this module is focused on the creative side of media literacy again. So they learned how to use media to teach students, and they touch on many elements of media literacy, but related to the creative side of media literacy. And again, not about the more critical side of it. And finally, we have the Junior Cycle for Teachers, or JCT, and its program called Arts in Junior Cycle. So basically, they offer workshops for junior cycle teachers on many topics, including digital media literacy. I had the opportunity to participate in a few of them. So I have some examples here, as you can see. One workshop was called A Word Made of Stories, where we discussed meaning-making practices in digital media storytelling. Another one was called Checking the Facts, whereby we analyzed media texts and also we discussed some best practices in online research. And they also sometimes bring journalists, for example, to speak to teachers, such as this workshop here on the right, where they brought Jennifer O'Connell, who is a journalist from the Irish Times, to talk about journalism with teachers. And now that we are finally back to face-to-face interventions, we have some workshops coming up in the next few months. And these workshops, because they are face-to-face, they will be much longer. Those workshops that I mentioned, they were online. They only lasted for about an hour and 15 minutes. But now we have longer workshops lasting for like 3 hours. So we can actually get all the teachers together in face-to-face interventions. And I have a colleague, Mary Laurie, who's preparing a very interesting workshop on big data, which is a very interesting topic, I mean, related to media literacy. And she's going to discuss data privacy with teachers. And I will also deliver a workshop on critical media literacy with a focus on online research and the analysis of media messages and sources. So basically, in a nutshell, what's happening in Ireland today is that we have, Irish schools, they are very well equipped with digital technology, which is good, because they have the resources that we need to teach digital media literacy, especially if you want to get students to produce something. There's plenty of opportunities in secondary education, like the one I mentioned to you, the transition year program, and also the digital media literacy short course. Governmental organizations such as the PDST and JCT, they have very good connections with schools and with teachers, so we can reach out to them very easily. We have now a media literacy policy, and we have the network that I mentioned to you, which is good to connect all these people together so we can work in collaboration. There's definitely a huge demand for media literacy resources and trainings, not only in schools, but also in libraries. And as I said, I mean, there are some training taking place, but it's still in a very small scale. So the next step is to improve the capacity for media literacy teacher training in Ireland, not only in service training, which is the topic of this session, but also pre-service training, which was the topic of the previous session. And that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ricardo. It was a very fluent overview of what's happening in Ireland. I have maybe 2 questions for you already, and also one from the public. But maybe first, the universities you talked about were mainly situated in Dublin. Is that correct? Does the work on media literacy focus mainly on the area around Dublin, or does it reach the whole of Ireland?
You mean universities or the in-service?
Both, so in schools, as well as the training for teachers.
Yeah, no, the training, I mean, because we were doing online, and so we could reach actually people across the country. Yeah, so that was really good. Now that we're planning face-to-face, we're going to have one session in November here in Dublin. We're planning another one in Clercq, which is also a big city. But my idea is that next year we can actually go to different places, definitely. I mean, that's the good part of doing online. I mean, even though, you lose a lot in terms of interaction, but you can reach people in every corner of the country. So we're planning some face-to-face learning interventions in other parts of Ireland as well for next year.
Yeah, and do teachers generally have to pay for such training?
No. This the ones I was talking about that is offered by Arts Engineers Cycle, they are totally free. Yeah.
And then I see here one of the listeners has asked if you think there is a need to place a standalone media literacy course for students and pre-service teachers. When you say we need to enlarge capacity, do you think there should be a standalone course there for students?
Well, I think there should. Well, I think this is a long discussion. I think, of course, as a media literacy advocate, I think we should have media literacy in the curriculum, definitely, in some form. That's a big discussion if media literacy should be a discipline, or it should be, you know, across the curriculum. I think in both cases, we have a good perspective. But I think the main, I mean, in terms of teacher education, we definitely should have more media literacy in pre-service training in universities. So this is something that I'm working on now in Trinity College. So now we have two classes about media literacy. One is more focused on semiotics and multimodality. And the second one, as I mentioned, just started this year on critical media literacy, where I discuss like media representations, disinformation, and this kind of thing. So we are progressing, you know, and things are happening, but it's still quite slow. But yeah, I think we should have definitely media literacy in the curriculum and a standalone course.
Yeah, and then maybe for you an opportunity to work together with somebody in Ireland. So there's a question from Fiona Concannon from the University of Galway, and it connects to the question from Sonia Jerez from the University of Cordoba. Fiona is asking, how does what you're doing connect to DITCOMP Edu and the work of Selfie in schools, and are there any connections possible? And Sonia is asking if if you're using frameworks or standards in your work.
Let me just read it. So how does this connect with DITCOMP Edu and the work of Selfie in schools? Do you see there may be connections possible? Yeah, of course. Well, as I said, because the interesting thing is, because media literacy is something very recent in Ireland, like 10 years ago, when I said, you know, when I tried to talk about media literacy in the country, nobody would know what it is. So now things are very different, but it's still very connected to technology. So, and because Ireland is a tech hub in Europe, I mean, the main companies are here. So there's a lot of, you know, funding, there's a lot of opportunities. Google, Microsoft, even Meta, they are funding a lot of projects in Ireland, but usually connected to technology, or usually connected to computer science, for example, such as the project I mentioned in Trinity. So those like DITCOMP Edu or Selfie, there's definitely a connection, because then, you know, because they are dealing with technology, and then we come with the media literacy content. So it's a kind of a gateway for us to go to schools. I've been using this over the past years, like trying to use ICT in education and projects related to technology and computer science to include some elements of media literacy. So yes, Fiona, yeah, definitely. I see many connections with that.
So you're using these as a kind of gateway, but are you using any frameworks or standards for your specific media literacy work then?
Well, it depends on the project, Andy. So yeah, like for example, if you're, I mean, there's a lot of projects in Ireland, for example, around coding. Okay. So then if you were working with coding, then I will prepare something related to that. Or now we talk, especially in primary education, we talk a lot about internet safety. So again, and data privacy. So this new workshop that we have about big data will touch on that. So this is, I think this is the first workshop for secondary teachers that will talk about data privacy and how teachers need to be aware of that and this kind of stuff. So it depends on the project, yeah. So then I can use different frameworks of media literacy.
Okay, and there's one final question. There was in an earlier talk, somebody said that in Spain there's a kind of competition between schools of communication and schools of education to promote teacher training in media literacy. So who are the main actors in Ireland there?
I wish we had this competition here. That would be amazing, you know. But no, for example, here it's the School of Educations actually, because this course I mentioned, the Professional Masters in Education, which is a compulsory course for secondary teachers. This is a course you only find in schools of education. But that's a very good question, because I think the schools of communication should step up and also, you know, be part of that. This is something that I've been trying to do, actually connect both schools because they have to work together. I mean, we're talking about media literacy is nothing but, you know, an interface between communication and education. So schools should work together. And I'm happy to know that in Spain, they have a competition about that.
Yeah, I really like your very pragmatic view of how media literacy and digital technology they should come together in this day and age. I'd like to thank you very much, Ricardo. We need to go to the next speaker, and I think your use of using the digitalization of education and the stress on digital in education is really a focal point also for the next speaker, who is Stéphanie de Clercq. Welcome, Stéphanie. You've been a teacher for quite a while, I think, in Belgium, in Flanders, in the Flemish-speaking part of Belgium. And now you are a staff member of the Knowledge Center of DigiSprong, which is the knowledge center that is really introducing digitalization in Flemish education since, I think, about a year now or 2 years. So please take the floor and tell us about it.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Yes, hi everybody. I'm Stephanie, and I'm working in the Knowledge Center of DigiSprong. I prepared a presentation. I hope you can all see it.
Yes, yes.
So thanks for the opportunity to let us speak here today. I also brought a colleague, Bart. Maybe he can also answer some questions in the chat if necessary. So yes, in Flanders, we have took action during the pandemic with a vision statement, and it's called DigiSprong. If you literally translate that, it means the digital jump. The vision text we made is supported with an action plan, and it has to help the schools in their digital transformation process. I will briefly walk you through the vision statement. It's a lot, so I will not be able to give you all the details because it's a lot. But later on, I will go on about the ICT competences of teachers, which is one of the main actions of the DigiSprong. But the main mission of the DigiSprong is to provide the students with the right ICT competencies they will need for their future lives. That's our goal. And we do that by giving the teachers the right support in terms of ICT competences, but also providing a budget for infrastructure, ICT trainings, and also support initiatives for the ICT policy. The first thing we did was make sure that every school has the right equipment to make the digital transformation. And to do that, we had a lot of money to give to the schools to equip the students and the teachers with a mobile device. In Flanders, freedom of education is very important. So for that, there was a lot of freedom for the schools. They could choose which device was the best fit for them according to their own vision on ICT. And of course, we have also had a lot of funding for the connectivity in schools. After that, we made sure that the schools can make an ICT policy in their own school. And to do that, we managed to strengthen the statute for the ICT coordinators in school, and they are also provided with more hours in their schools. Next important part, of course, of our action plan is to equip all the teachers with the appropriate ICT competencies. There are many actions taken, and there are also a lot of actions that will follow. So I will explain them more in detail later on. Our actions are, as in Ireland, pre-service and in-service learning actions. So we focus on both of them. Then the next important thing is to provide the teachers with the right digital learning materials, of course, and digital learning tools. We have a number of projects in our action plan to provide them with the right materials. And then last but not least, we set up the Knowledge Center, in where I'm working. The Knowledge Center falls under the Flemish government, the Department of Education and Training, and it was set up to make sure that all the actions in the action plan are followed up, and that we can provide schools with the right information. Within the Knowledge Center, we have 4 pillars. And the 2 pillars that are working on media literacy together are my pillar, ICT competences of teachers, and the pillar ICT vision and policy. And we follow up on some projects together. So I will now elaborate a little bit more on the concrete actions we have taken to increase the teachers' ICT competencies. And first thing, we have already heard about DIGCOMP-EDU. In Flanders, DIGCOMP-EDU is a base on where all our actions are based on the DIGCOMP-EDU framework from the European Commission. The framework is divided in 6 areas, and most of the media literacy competencies are placed in area 6, facilitating learners' digital competence. For those who do not know the framework, so there are 6 areas, and in each area there is a set of competencies that teachers should have they need to teach. Yes. What I wanted to say about the DIGCOMP-EDU, most of our actions are not only focusing on one area or domain in the DIGCOMP-EDU framework, but they are focused on all of them together. So we have a lot of actions for ICT training taken, but it's not only on media literacy, but also on the other competencies in the framework. The framework, in each area, you have like a set of competences, but then you also have 6 levels from awareness to innovation that teachers can have. What we then did, we know there's a tool called Selfie for Teachers, but we made like our own tool to a self-reflection tool for teachers, and it's launched a few weeks ago. So it's now working. It's a survey that teachers can fill in. It's a self-reflection. Teachers can indicate for each competency whether they apply it in their own classroom practice or not. It's anonymously, and we also, that's the reason why we chose for our own tool. And we also added some examples from the Flemish context, because Selfie for Teachers is really generic. And we tried to apply with example in our own context. After the teachers have taken the survey, they get a learning suggestion with also an advice on which trainings are a perfect fit for their needs. And the trainings are placed in a database. At this moment, it's about 400 trainings in the database. It are not trainings that we provide ourselves by the department. We have like a few partners. They get a training with us on how they can add their trainings for the schools in our database, but they provide it, and the schools can subscribe with the partner, so not with us. So we make the database happen. We provide the tool DSnap, but it's also there are commercial partners, but also like MediaWest is also a partner in DSnap. There's also an opportunity for the school leaders to launch a group level questionnaire so that they have like a dashboard for the school leaders with the global results. It's still anonymously, so that they cannot see which teacher has filled in which answer. For the database, we use Klassement. It's a website where teachers can share materials and interesting websites, and we use the same database. So that's why the icon is there. So that's DigiSnap. What we also did, another action, was adding an additional budget on professional ICT development. Each school received 120 euro for each teacher full-time, and they can use it as they want. They can use it for trainings in the DigiSnap database, but they can also choose to use it for another ICT training. Then another action are the boot camps. The boot camps, it's a government procurement, which we have launched a few weeks ago, and 2 days ago, the deadline was there. So we are looking for a partner that can provide trainings for teachers. We have trainings for teachers in primary education. And also, we are looking for a partner that can manage training for ICT coordinators from all the educational levels, not only primary education. We are also working together with our partners. We have one of partners, but the most important one is the Media Literacy Knowledge Center. I don't know, Andy, if I say that correctly in English, Media West, where Andy is from. And they have a really beautiful training. It's called the Media Coach. It's a unique training for the schools. Where the main goal of the Media Coach training is that teachers can warm up their own team to work with media in a very sportive role. So the training is unique because of the focus on coaching and also on knowledge sharing. The participants receive very hands-on and practical sessions, and they are linked to their own classroom practice. It takes a year to do the training, and at the end of the year, there's a final project for each participant. They also provide with training on cyberbullying, which is also very hands-on because it equips the school with the right skills to address targeted cyberbullying. So it's also very hands-on. Another partner of us is the Archief voor Onderwijs, Archive for Education, if I translate that. They provide online trainings, but they provide also the schools with free audio and video material. And they have webinars and trainings for schools on how they can use it in the classroom. Then there's Child Focus. It's also a partner who we support, and they have trainings for teachers to get them more aware of safe and how to go safe online and how they have to be critical with information. And last but not least, there's the VRT. They provide schools with materials and edu-boxen. It are boxes with material to use with students, also digital material. And the topics are fake news or financial and education and so on. And they also provide schools with the support to use it in the classroom. So to sum up, I think we have taken a lot of action in Flanders, but one of to make our digital jump. But we have to go further than we have done. Most of the actions were on infrastructure and also ICT policy and ICT vision of schools. But now the biggest challenge is the professional development of the teachers in the schools. I think it will be a challenge for a few years. It's not something we can manage in 1 year. The actions we have taken are on a more global level, and a lot of decisions can be made for the schools themselves based on their needs. It's good because there's freedom for the schools, but the difficulty in the freedom for the schools is also that there are big differences which make it more difficult to make actions that fit for every school. And another difficult part in Flanders is that we do not have like big obligations for teachers to do in professional development. They can choose if they want to professionalize or not, and that's one of the difficulties we are challenging now. So that was more or less my presentations. If you have any questions afterwards, here's my contact info and also the contact info of my colleague Bart. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. That was great overview of what DigiSprong is doing. We have a question here by Fiona, who's asking you if you could speak to the level of teacher engagement in the DigiSnap. I know it's just been launched a few weeks ago, so that not a lot of teachers will have used it by now, but do you have any numbers or indication of if it's being used already?
Yes, we have now over 2,000 teachers that have filled in the survey, and 30,000 are registered by their school. Most of the surveys are filled in by schools, and they have to ask it in advance, and then we make the questionnaire for them. So we have a few numbers. They are not the latest that I haven't asked before at my colleague, but yeah, we have a lot of schools that wants to do it in a group level questionnaire.
Yeah, and if I understand it correctly, in the boot camps you were talking about, one of the boot camps was for primary schools on the developing an ICT policy or a digitalization policy together with primary schools and doing training for the teachers there. But it started with DigiSnap.
Yeah, it started with DigiSnap. So the first lot of the boot camps, it starts with DigiSnap. And then the partner we have chosen, they are not chosen yet, the process is now running. The partner we choose will have to make a professionalizational action plan with the school board, and they have to give 5 trainings on the that fits the needs of the school according to the DigiSnap questionnaire. They have to choose at least 2 domains in the DigiComp Edu framework, and they have to give 5 different trainings that are also provides information for the teachers with no knowledge at all, and also for the more advanced teachers. So they have to differentiate a little bit, and then afterwards they have to make a report for the schools so that they can move on and go on with their professional development plan.
Yeah, so you're not only launching a tool like this, you're also providing guidance for the school and people who will be training the schools in the school to use it and make policy. It's great work. One final question maybe, and I think it connects to what you were saying, that there are not a lot of obligations for teachers to do professional, to do extra training once they have a job in teaching. Because I think Sally here is asking if you certify these courses, if there's some kind of certification, and if yes, do they count for career progression?
No, so that's the most difficult thing in Flanders. There are like certificates. MediaWest also has its own certificates. So most of the providers of trainings have own certificates, but it's not like you get a better job or it's just you do the professional development just for yourself as a teacher. And for some teachers that's enough, but not for every teacher. Some would like to have more of an incentive.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much. We need to go to the next speaker, who we have here now, or where we're going to is Vitor Tomé. Yes, I can see you there. Welcome, Vitor. You are an international expert, and I saw in your bio you've been all over the world to promote digital and media literacy, and been working all around on digital citizenship. And you're also a part, if I am correct, of the Iberian EDMO there. So that's must be a lot of work. And not only are you in education, you've also been a journalist and training journalist. So that's a very wide perspective on the subject. So could you tell us your perspective from Portugal and from the whole world where you've been?
Yes, I'm going to try. Thank you very much, and thank you, Sally, for inviting me. If I may, I'd like to share with you a PowerPoint presentation. And to try, I was thinking, how can I share some that is really related with the teacher training in MIL, or teacher professional development in media education literacy. And so I organized this short presentation in 3 moments. First, from all the trainings in which I was involved, and not only, but in the trainings that were developed in projects that I was involved or participating, what have we learned from that? Then, which strategy am I using to assess teacher trainings, in-service teacher trainings? And then how can I share an example of this strategy in practice? So first, and focusing on teacher training from 2007 to 2022, because I thought the first trainings in which I was involved, it took place in 2007, 2006 or 7. So by that time, we are working on trainings focused on school newspapers, online and offline, for instance. Then it changed a little bit around 2011 to social media and democratic participation. In 2016, the main focus of the trainings was digital citizenship education. And then in 2018, by the end of 2018, it moved to digital media and disinformation. In 2020, 2021, pandemic times, the main focus were ICT, STEAM, and media literacy. And now, not only because the Iberian Hub, but also because teachers are really interested, we are organizing trainings in disinformation, digital citizenship education, and democracy. These courses were different, of course. Most of them, if not all of them, were certified by the Ministry of Education, and this, as we have just said, is crucial for career advancement. And some courses had up to 6 hours or 1 hour workshops or 2 hour workshops, courses with 6 hours face-to-face and online. Then courses or trainings with during 15 hours or 25 hours, both face-to-face and online. And then different course that is 20 hours in classroom, you can say, or online with the trainer and all the trainees, and 20 hours that the trainees are working, the teachers are working with students and other publics out of the trainings. These trainings involve teachers from preschool to vocation, teachers with special needs, and K-12 teachers in general. The short course's main structure was concepts, discuss concepts, main focus of the course, then group work, discussion, and debriefing. Middle courses were similar, but they included planning and presenting the plans, sharing the plannings among participants. And the long course is 25 hours or 40 hours, include all this, but not only planning, but implementing the activities / projects they have planned and reporting on these activities and the projects, including assessment and sustainability plan, was presenting, sharing these results, discussion, debriefing, and sharing the replicable practices, not only with colleagues, but online or in print. What we have learned from 2007-2019 in 4 main ideas, teachers are able to develop media literacy activities, especially during the trainings, when they have the trainer helping them, and they are motivated not only by the trainer, but self-motivated and motivated by the colleagues. During these courses, it is important that they can share the work they do, so all the others can learn. And teachers are able to overcome the lack of technologies. In some cases, they use their own devices. In some other cases, they apply the bring your own device to students, even in deprived contexts. This is possible. Media literacy activities become richer, of course, when they work in small groups, and especially if these groups are interdisciplinary and that have also people or teachers from different school levels and scientific fields. After 2020, we were training several teachers in Portugal, and we have to change everything. So we learned that it is important, it's crucial to train the trainers and trainees about online learning. It's crucial to involve the trainees in planning and reporting templates, but also in data collecting instruments and assessment tools, and train them how to apply these tools. The activities go easily and faster when someone from the school board is participating, of course. And these activities and projects need regular monitoring, not only during the training, but especially after the training. And because most of these activities or projects that are developed are original, are replicable, and it is important to share them. It is important to monitor them in order to share them. That said, in 2018, and regarding assessment, we wrote a chapter explaining why we were working on a strategy to assess in-service teacher trainings on media literacy. This strategy was improved. We improved this strategy, and this is published. To be published in this book later this month or in early November. It's a book by Peter Lang that I wrote with my colleague Belinha de Abreu. It's about a huge project, but there's an important part about the teacher training, in-service teacher training, and how we assess these trainings. And having in mind to give you a general idea. So we organized this assessment strategy in 3 levels. First, organization. And these questions are important before organizing the training and after, and even during, if I may say. So were the teachers able to organize media literacy activities with their students? They organized themselves in small groups, interdisciplinary groups. Were they able to co-produce planning and reporting templates, data collection instruments, and assessment tools? And they learned how to apply them. Was the trainer available, and was the trainer able to answer efficiently and effectively to their questions? Sorry. Development. Did the teachers develop media literacy activities? They overcame the lack of resources. integrated those activities in their previous pedagogical plans without major changes. This is really important. Were they able to apply data collection instruments, assessment tools, and share this data? And if they were able to involve other people in the activities, not only parents, but other people from the local communities around the school. The same for the trainer, monitoring and being available to support teachers. And finally, the third level, where the trainee is able to produce a theory report on the activities following a structure, an agreed structure, in which they identify weaknesses and strengths and remediation strategies, and are they able to set up a participatory strategy to evaluate, to assess the training course, and the trainer is he able to improve the teacher training after this teacher training, after the reflection, is able to produce a set of lesson plans or even an handbook of sense-making practices, and are these practices replicable or not? And then if the trainer is able to produce a theory report on the training course, including future monitoring, because this is important. And let me just give you briefly an example of this model or this strategy, sorry, in action. So in 2020, we trained 29 teachers from preschool to middle school through the course that has 20 plus 20 hours from September to December, online, of course, because it was pandemic times. Then the main aim was to plan, implement, and assess STEAM and media literacy workshops related with the community context and aim to solve local problems, kind of service learning, project learning / service learning. Were they able to organize? So teachers were able to organize in small groups and to produce media literacy and STEAM activities, following a planning structure previously agreed and discussed and agreed. And they were able to co-produce data collection instruments for teachers, for children, for pupils also. They were able to develop activities without changing their previous plans, while overcoming the lack of resources. In this example, for instance, this is we have a photo from Google Maps, and it shows the school. They learn about road safety, and after that, instead of answering to a test, a traditional test, they went out to school and they reflect: is this area organized according to what we have just learned? No. So let's organize a scale model and send it to the municipality, asking them to change things, because we don't like this. We don't have, for instance, zebras, we don't have traffic lights, we don't have a lot of things that we should have and we deserve to have. Another idea was to plan activities involving pupils, but other people, in this case, an engineer that was working with them, reinventing the school. How do you want your school to be? And they said, we want our school like that, more or less like that. Then on to the level 3, to proceed with level 3, they agreed on a template to report on the training, and this was important, so we can really we were able to evaluate the training using this data. All the participants did self-assessment, but then teachers assess students, trainer, and practice. The trainer assess teachers and practices, and pupils assess practices. It was possible to publish a book. It's in Portuguese, but it's available online. Through the Ministry of Education was interested and published this book, a book of sense-making practices, but also includes all the process and how we assess the training. And finally, they organized a YouTube channel, because each of the 17 workshops they were able to develop, involving 410 students, has a video explaining the process and the outputs. To conclude, let me just say that, in our opinion, teacher education must be conceived and envisioned as a key process and not just as a one-shot intervention, for instance, without follow-up. It should be planned, implemented, and assessed following a strategy shared and assumed by all participants, because all the participants have a role from the very beginning. And then they should be organized in order to improve the training in itself and to produce replicable practices, sense-making practices that can be shared online or in hard copy. And this was my presentation. Thank you very much. If you have questions, I'll be glad to answer.
Well, thank you very much, Vitor. That looked like really interesting projects and publications. I do have 2 questions already for you. And it's because you stressed some things that, but you didn't really go, really explain them much more. So I was thinking 2 things. If in your questionnaire or in your evaluation form, you said, can they integrate it without major changes? So, and the other thing was, can they involve other people from around the school? Why do you think these 2 aspects are essential in this teacher training on digital and media literacy?
Thank you for the questions. The first one, because when we offer training to teachers, when I offer to teachers the training in media information literacy or digital citizenship education, usually it happens after October or November. So the plannings are already done. And the thing is, in some cases, teachers, they keep telling us, no, I can't, it's impossible to attend because I have no time. And even if I have time, then I have to change my plans. Then the school will not allow to change the plans. And things, it's important to explain them. And now I don't try to explain them. Now I ask other teachers to explain them. Because it's easier. They speak the same language and it's easier. You don't have to change your plans. You have just to do it differently. But your plans will be accomplished. It won't be a problem. And involving the community, I think it's key, because media literacy or digital citizenship education is something that should be done by everyone. So it's like the old saying, it takes a village to raise a child. So it's crucial when the parents and the community understands the importance of media literacy. It's important we are able to start projects from school, to start projects from primary schools, for instance, and make them grow and become a community project. This is key, I think.
Okay, great. And if you say you have other teachers to explain it to them, then do you think that peer-to-peer learning within in-service teacher training is an important factor?
When possible, yes. When possible, yes. Because some teachers, I would say, I don't know if this is the best word, but they are afraid in some cases. This is about what media, and no, this is very technological. This is very complicated for me. But if they have the opportunity to discuss with other teachers and to see the shared practices and to watch, for instance, the short videos on YouTube, they can realize that it is possible. Okay, I can do it. And maybe this is important not only for my students, but for all the community and for me too.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very inspiring. So if you allow me, I would like to go to our 4th and final speaker for this session. Thank you very much. We have now Professor Divina Vroom-Meigs, who is well-known for her work at the university in Paris, the Sorbonne, but especially in these years, she's known for her ample inspiration that she's providing through her organization Savoir Devenir. Thank you very much for joining us, Professor. I would like just to give the floor to you immediately so that you can inspire us further. Thank you very much.
Hello, Andy, and thank you, because I think in terms of inspiration, you and Sally definitely are also very much the models. And thank you for having me today. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Okay. Because I think I arrive at the end of this session, and it's not a bad thing in the sense that I am trying to think what's the next step. And of course, when you start thinking the next step, it's already there. And I think at the moment, we're all struggling with this dimension of media that is data, and how data are impacting media, and how do we step up the discussion on media literacy there, and is it legitimate or not to bring algo literacy into media literacy, and how to do it the mill way, which is what I'm going to try to present today through an experiment that we are conducting. So it's more experimental, it's still pilot. Teachers are in the process, but more the challenge was to already bring developers to speak about what they do with data in a way that is palatable to non-developers, journalists also, because it's connected, of course, to algorithms and how they push disinformation or not, all these myths about algorithms. And the media experts already coming together. So it's already quite a few communities and stakeholders coming together with the teachers, also hopefully benefiting from it. And of course, we're trying to implicate MediaVige as much as we can in the process, as you know. So assessing the state of media literacy and effecting real field change at the moment has to do a lot with the fight against disinformation. It's what is propelling media literacy back to the front stage after it has been put on the backstage for a while, with a competing conversation about coding and computing. We're back because it's democracy, because of our values, but we still have to translate that into resources and practices. When we look at the state of algo literacy at the moment, and I'm quoting from the OCDE reporting that was mentioned this morning, there is a low level of confidence from all kinds of teachers, pre-service, in-service. I think we're all frankly confronted with the same challenges. There is a lack of research, and because it's not yet fully blown in terms of designing tools and scales and actual interventions and what they should look like. And there is, of course, algorithms themselves. They do not lend themselves to a very transparent understanding. Part of their role is to be obscure and secret. So here we are dealing with freedom of expression and access to information, and the thing in front of us is opaque. So this is some of the elements I wanted to share with you. I hope you recognize this is what some of the teachers say themselves, and when we try to tell them, how about you went there? And there are at the moment, even in DigiComp, that has been mentioned earlier, there are mentions of algorithms, data, but they remain very, very tenuous. And in fact, we lack a specific focus on that. At least that's what I would like to contend with you today. There are working definitions of algo literacy, a set of capabilities, and here you go, algorithmic curation control. This one is very technical, technological. I think it scares teachers a little bit because they tell themselves, we do not have AI environments that we can control. The other one about dealing with curated environments, with social media news feeds, search engines, that's more maybe acceptable and compatible with media and information literacy without requiring to create a new literacy, yet one more in the many needed literacies of the moment, and climate literacy, whatever. My contention would be that it is an essential part of MIL, and it should not be separated. And it's more about computational thinking, how it works, how the logics are and the values behind, than actual coding and computing. That can go in STEM, for instance, and we could have a division of labor and competences. So that's the proposal we're working with. And so as a result, at Savoir Devenir, we've been working already with on other projects like UVerify and UCheck with developers, with algorithms, and develop this kind of structure of what it would look like, a framework for algo literacy, controlling your personal choices, and you're going to recognize very much male attitudes and skills. Evaluate the context, make informed decisions about information provided online, know how to decipher algorithmic biases, editorial responsibility. These are the issues for society, the problems, of course, connected with disinformation, polarization, etc., etc., and communicate with others, which is, of course, always the final element of media literacy. You create, you contribute. So with Project Crossover, this is what we're trying to do a little bit. I remain very, very modest about this project because we are really in a tentative approach. We are working with Belgium mostly and social media in Belgium. We try to understand the influence of recommendation algorithms and how they deal with information and maybe disinformation. And we're working with developers, which are Check First, journalists at Apache, EU Disinfolab, fact checkers. And so you see the community that is coming around this project. And we have a tool, but the tool is embedded in the media literacy approach, which is called the dashboard, and that follows in real time the influence of recommendation algorithms on social media. So it allows us to see how algorithms filter, curate, and making it visible is already starting to remove algorithms out of their secrecy box, because you can follow online how the hashtags and the keywords evolve. So you see that we are not trying to deal with computing or with the actors, and we're trying to look at the users and practices, how it impacts us as we use these tools. And so this is where we are also with media literacy. And the kit that we are putting together includes several elements, because we think that teachers have several ways of entering and using the kit. They can go to interactive quizzes right away to see where the students are in terms of knowledge, etc. Or they can go to the authentic article produced by journalists about their investigations, helped by the dashboard, or you can listen to the podcast conversations where the whole process is explained by the developers, the journalists, the media literacy experts, so that they explain behind the scenes how it works. The whole thing is to try to remove the angst about how do we address, who do we talk to, who are the experts that we could invite in the classroom, etc., etc. Give ideas to teachers for that. And we propose, of course, workshop plans for the teachers who that way can just plug in one of the podcasts, maybe in one of their classes, to complement what they're already doing with algorithms, with media. So the idea is to make it light, and so that they don't feel totally plunged into a very wide world out there. So we've made already 2 modules available. One of them actually yesterday with MediaVij experts. And we start from real life, real cases, and because we think it's very important to have an authentic dimension, very much a media literacy approach. The keyboard fighters, which is about the Freedom Convoy, that made a lot of splash in Canada, but not so much in Belgium. So it allows us to see how maybe you should not trust what the algorithms say, because the algorithms were saying, big buzz, it's enormous, what's going to happen. In reality, it flopped. And same thing for propaganda. which is very much a part of this information. We looked at what happened to the ban of Arte Russia in Belgium, but also in France, because it was banned during the Ukrainian war. And we told ourselves, great, they're removing the propaganda networks. Therefore, the less propaganda-oriented media are going to go up. Well, guess what? No. The algorithms went to the other propaganda network, which is CGTN Français, the Chinese media. So we try to play on the surprise, on the spirit of inquiry that can imitate what a journalist thinks, the habits of journalism as they go looking for information, etc. And we recreate that in the podcast, in the papers, and then in the quizzes and the work plan to make it interesting, challenging, and to build resilience. And so work plans are for teachers, it's true, and for educators primarily, but youth workers have been using them in France. Journalists have this possibility if they go into the classroom. And we're talking with lie detectors and others to see how they can use this tool. And the idea, of course, is that the dashboard is embedded. It's not the major thrust, which it is for developers, for instance, to create discussions with young people and to look at fact-based opinion and decision based on what algorithms do, and to react. So this is what one of the kit looks like. You can have debate. You can on the podcast. You have the quizzes. You have the transcripts to work from, etc. And this, oops, sorry, I forgot to stop my my phone. And that way that we can implement the framework throughout the kit and move towards what I'm pushing for. You know me, of course, the fact that mail is a transliteracy. It really deals with the free information cultures, the media culture, the data culture, the documents online culture, and is bringing all of this together, but is going to help people make sense of the digital. And I love that Victor has picked up on the sense-making practices, and because it's about making sense and helping people make sense. And so in terms of conclusion, how can we enhance the impact of all of this, of algoliteracy? Well, you see me coming. We have to include it in the teacher training for male. One more element. We have to refine the framework for competences, and I am working on, trying to attach the algoliteracy competences that we've done from the ground with the DigiComp. And that's the missing slide here. Anybody who wants to help, please. And of course, to plead for an increasing transparency of algorithms with the platforms, that we know that's not going to happen tomorrow. They're economic secrets, but at least transparency in the use of algorithms so that we know how we're using them, so that we can then make decisions on how we want to continue using them or not, and modify our practices. So if you want to go and find the dashboard, it's on Crossover Social, but the kit is also on Crossover Social and also on Savoir Devenir Network. And now, of course, I'd be glad to answer any questions. Thank you.
Great. Really nice project. Thank you for sharing it with us. We already saw also that Juliana has been making some promotion for the interactive quizzes, that they are telling teachers that they are very easy to use and very good. So that's a good thing there. What I did want to ask you, in this project, you're working together, not with classical educational partners, but with journalists and fact checkers. And how is that to work together with these kinds of professionals to take what they are doing and to bring it to education? Is that an easy process? Is that how has that been?
Thank you, Andy. If I were present there, I would kiss you. It's great. It's great because it's people that we usually don't have access to, teachers in schools or professors, except when they're willing to come, and they are, but you know, there's so much work, and with disinformation everywhere, they're really asked to go in all directions, and they have priorities. So it's good that we can bring them in from time to time, and that's what podcasts do, and to sort of make them human. They're there, they have a voice, they're explaining their difficulties and what they thought they were looking for, what they actually find. So I think that was our challenge, and our goal at Savoir Devenir was to say, these people are accessible. They make huge efforts to be clear. And if you go on the dashboard of Crossover, you'll see that Check First is doing an amazing pedagogical job there. And they're training journalists, but they don't have time to train youth workers or teachers. And so this is what we are trying to do, is to sort of trickle down some of their knowledge so that it can be shared more largely. And so that's why the kit is on their website, so that it's accessible. Anybody who wants to take it, of course, it's free of charge. It's an OER. If you want to translate it, we give everything to you. And so that's the idea, is to so we don't have the teachers as part of the process at the beginning, because it's already a lot of people to deal with. But we have had teachers dealing with our framework for algo literacy. What do you want and what would help you? And all they say is about the usage. We can't go and speak to the platforms. We can't, they don't want to talk about their algorithms. So the only thing we can do is stop amplification when it's not worth it. And so it's from that feedback of the teachers and that we told ourselves, okay, this is where we have to start working on uses and practices of algorithms. And from there, it made the field a bit clearer. We don't pretend to do everything. And it's just how to middle literacy way and become more algorithm savvy, know when to be careful, to verify other sources, to use several search engines, etc., etc.
Okay, yeah, really great. Thank you very much for sharing on the relationship with journalists and in education. I'm sure in the next panel, Juliana will go into that as well.
Absolutely.
So we hope to see you there at, just checking the hour that it starts at. It's at 3:30 in Central European time. For a very interesting panel that will be concluding the day and also talking about raising standards, opportunities and expectations. What we also would like to share again is that we hope to really see you again from January on in our community for teacher trainings on digital and media literacy that we're starting in the Team Lit program, in the Team Lit project, together with Media and Learning, with Ricardo, with Igor, that you have all seen today. So we'll be really going on into this topic much more the next year and a half. See you at 3. I mean at 3:30. Yeah. Bye.